What's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 3 of Saturday School. Last week we checked out Queen Latifah and the Wu-Tang Clan. If you want to listen to that episode or check it out, it's linked below in the description, along with a series intro video if this is your first time here. It's less than 2 minutes. It explains all the rules, constraints, and the setup for this series. If you don't want to watch that, or if you want to start fresh from the beginning, you can also just go check out episode 1 because I explain everything in the first few minutes of episode 1 as well. All right, without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, before jumping into this, I had heard of Pimp C and Bun B, and I had heard of UGK, but I didn't know that they were the same people. I just was like, oh, I've heard of UGK, and I heard of Pimp C and Bun B, but I didn't know that they were connected. That made me excited to see what they would bring to the table. As for Missy Elliott, of course I know who Missy Elliott is. Everybody know who Missy Elliott is. She Missy Elliott, right? Of course I know a lot of her songs, but when I picked this album, I knew I hadn't listened to the album, so I didn't even look at the track list. Now, I didn't know whether I would know the title track for this album before I got into it, but when I got into it, it was a pleasant surprise. Get your freak on. I know that one. Either way, I was excited to see what the albums had in store for me. So I am switching up the format for this episode just a little bit. I want to see if it'll make me be more succinct and less rambly because I do ramble. And I got a lot of notes. I'm writing 1.5 to 2 pages of notes every time I listen to these albums. This time I'm jumping straight into the reviews. Here's what I think. Disclaimer, before I get into the albums, if you want to join my class or listen along with me, this is the point where you should stop if you don't want my opinions about songs or how things sounded to influence how you feel about the album as well. If you don't care about that kind of stuff, please feel free to keep watching. If you don't plan to listen to the albums and you just here to support, please feel free to keep watching. But this is the point where you should stop if you plan to listen to the albums on your own first before continuing with us. If you want to use the worksheet that I made specifically for this series to write down your own notes and thoughts about the album, go ahead and click the link in the description below to download your own copy and fill it out. There's a PDF and a Word version, so whatever works for you, pick your poison. All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Album number 1 was Ridin Dirty by UGK. Overall, I really liked it. The album feels like the Dirty South. If you could put the energy of the South into an album, it would be Ridin Dirty by UGK. What really sealed the deal for me was I wrote a comment down halfway through the album when I was listening to, I believe, bear with me, Diamonds and Wind. When I was listening to Diamonds and Wind, I said this whole album feel like a Cadillac cruising down the street. Lo and behold, a few tracks later, Ridin Dirty come on and they mention riding in a Cadillac. It was crazy. It low-key felt surreal because I wasn't even trying to predict nothing, but it just, that really made me feel connected to the album because it felt like a full circle moment. Like they conveyed exactly what I was able to pick up on. At the same time, it really made me appreciate the artistry of the album because I'm sure they curated that exact energy for the album because that's what they were going for. For my favorite track, it was a toss-up between Pinky Ring and the outro. Now, Pinky Ring, I really liked it as a song itself, but that outro was very nice. I'm gonna be so real. When I picked up my phone to look at the title track, because I write down the name of every song before I take notes on it. So when I picked up my phone to look at the title track, I looked at it. I said 7 minutes. I was shocked. I was like, I'm here for the ride regardless, but it threw me for a loop because wasn't nothing else on the album 7 minutes long. So I was shocked, but very pleasantly surprised. And honestly, I was shocked at how quick I went from being like 7 minutes. What they finna do for 7 minutes? And like the next thing I knew, I looked at my phone, and I'm like, dang, we already halfway through. And then I looked at my phone again. I'm like, dang, it ain't but a minute left, and the track was over. But no part of the outro felt empty or felt like it was missing something. That's a very difficult thing to do for a song that's 7 minutes. You see what I'm saying? Like it can't be easy to put together a song that's 2 or 3 times as long as most songs nowadays and have it come out perfect. I feel like you either got to have an extremely clear vision in mind when you get in the studio, or you agree. There's no in between. As for Pinky Ring, the transition from Murder, the song before it, to Pinky Ring was a little bit sudden and jarring. I got over that real quick. I immediately got straight into the song and I liked it a whole lot. I didn't see a feature listed, so I was curious. I'm still curious. I haven't looked it up, but I'm curious about who was singing on the album because I didn't know. But whoever was singing on that song did a real nice job. One thing that I wrote down, I said, Pinky Ring sound like something for jive turkeys. Like, it sounded like a jive turkey song. The flexing they was doing was kind of cool and funny. It's got a shout out. And that didn't even influence the thing. I liked the song before I even knew they was gonna shout Memphis out. So I'm not biased. I might be a little biased. One notable quality about this album is that it's very obviously from the South. And I also noticed, and one thing that I really enjoyed was how I like how Bun B will stretch a single rhyme. He'll stretch it out and use that same rhyme sound for longer than most songs I've heard where they'll do it. And I thought that was a real cool thing to do. And he'll transition it into another real long rhyme. And he did that on Murder with the O, and then he transitioned it into, I think, Money in the unny, like that kind of like he went from an O rhyme to an unny rhyme, and I thought that was real cool. And finally, one thing I want to compliment the album for is that they did a phenomenal job of painting a picture and just setting the scene to give you the exact image that they wanted to convey. Because I don't think that's an easy task, and they did it perfectly. From the jail phone conversations to the transitions to the lyricism, all of it felt perfectly placed, and all of it painted an image in your head the whole time you was listening to the album, and I really liked that. Now, I was proud of myself for picking up on what they was putting down, but at the same time, it also made me appreciate the artistry because they had to be skilled in what they do to even be able to do that in the first place. Album number 2 was Miss E, So Addictive by Missy Elliott. That album was amazing as well. I loved it. My favorite song was For My People. I liked the song itself, but I also liked how it switched up the energy in the middle of the album, and it kind of made way for the faster tracks later in the album or right behind that. Because, you had some fast stuff and then it slowed down for a little bit, but For My People kind of switched that energy up so you could get back into them fast tracks without it feeling so jarring. You know what I mean? And that's what I really liked about that. For My People, it definitely sounded like Timberland put his Timberland in it. He put his foot in that beat. You could tell he was on there. The other thing I like the part where they kept saying, I can't stand this and I can't stand that. I like that a lot. That it scratched my musical itch. You know what I mean? What I will say, Step Off was a close second. Like in the chorus where they would say, keep you satisfied, the way they skipped the beat in the middle, I liked how they did that a lot. I say they because it sounded like multiple people. Like it sounded like background singers as well as Missy Elliott. That's why I'm saying they. I know it was Missy Elliott's song, but it was features and a whole lot of stuff going on in that album. It was a lot happening. Phenomenal album. A lot happening. Phenomenal album. I also really like What You're Gonna Do. That song, that felt like a You Got Served type song. Like I was laying in the bed. I was like pumping my chest like I'm finna be in a dance battle. That song had me hyped, even though I was laying down. So I thought that was nice. I also really like Slap Slap Slap. Slap 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 was the kind of song where if you asked me what's a song that encapsulates the uniqueness of Missy Elliott, I felt like I saw and heard that on Slap Slap Slap. Like it really felt like that's the energy that Missy Elliott and only Missy Elliott can bring. My least favorite song that I wrote down was Ecstasy, and I put an asterisk by it because I used the term least favorite song very, very loosely. Because I really didn't have a least favorite song. I was rocking with the whole album front to back, but I got to do my homework. So I wrote one down. For this album, I'm going to kind of answer number 3 and number 4 together. Separate but together, but you'll understand when I give you my answer. So, one notable quality is that even though Missy Elliott got a very clear Southern accent, like she don't sound like she from nowhere but the South. However, she's still real precise with how she drops certain syllables on certain bars and in certain words. And I just thought it was real cool to hear a Southern accent played with in that way. And you can also hear the confidence in every bar she spit. My compliment for the album, it kind of ties in with number 3 and a little bit of what I said earlier. But Missy Elliott flow is so unlike anybody else I've ever heard. I know I'm probably a little green, but I've really never heard anybody do what Missy Elliott does that didn't come after Missy Elliott. You see what I'm saying? And I also said not only that, but the way that Missy Elliott raps, it's almost like her words are doing ballet or like her words are playing piano. Like the way that she will put words in certain places, it feels so calculated, but she do it so smooth that it's just it's crazy to watch it in action. You know what I mean? Like you watching a talent show or something. Her words be doing gymnastics on the beat. I don't even know if my words or my description can do justice to describe what my brain experienced while listening to the music, but that's as good as I can explain it. All right, last but not least, my final thoughts. Which album did I prefer over the other and why? This week it was very, very hard to choose because I liked so much about Ridin Dirty. And I also liked so much about Miss E So Addictive. If I had to pick just based on like overall composition, I would go Ridin Dirty. But if I had to pick based on lyricism, I would go Missy Elliott. The deciding factor for who I chose as my favorite album was which tracks I liked and didn't like. Because I honestly didn't have a least favorite track for Miss E So Addictive, this week's winner is Missy Elliott. I like the whole album from front to back. It has nothing I can do, Miss. What you gonna do? Okay, but yes, that just about wraps it up. I know we've been in the olden times for a while, but next week we jumping into the future a little bit. We going into the future and we going to another region of the United States. We are doing. All right, that just about wraps up for today. All that's left to do is go over our homework and decide. All right, that just about wraps up for today. All we got left to do is discuss homework for next week. So next week. So that just about wraps up for this week. All we got left to do is go over homework for next week, and yeah. All right, so that just about wraps up for today. All we got left to do is go over homework for next week. So next week we're coming into the future a little bit. Not right now, not 2025, but we bringing it. Not 2025, not today, but we are coming closer to the future. Next week, our male artist will be Kendrick Lamar, and we'll be listening to Pimp a Butterfly. And our female artist will be Rapsody, and we'll be listening to her 2012 album, The Idea of Beautiful. All right, I've given you your homework. That's just about everything for me. If you have any thoughts, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments below. Feel free to drop your opinions. And I'll see y'all next week. Class dismissed.